Forgive me as I get everything started back up on my desktop here. Normally Andrew does these calls. And of course, as all of you know, he is out enjoying new fatherhood. So we will carry on without him. But let me just say welcome. Today is May the 4th, or Star Wars Day. So hopefully the Force will be with us as we go through this. All right. Okay, sorry, I am still having technical issues now with the PowerPoint. There we go. All right, as you know, I am Camille McCashland. I am the program specialist and I work with the budgets for the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant. So our agenda today is we will be going over some of the subgrantee guidance documents and the website resources. We will also be talking about approved budgets, budget revisions, obligations, funds that are not expended during the program year, the final request for 2016-17 payments, the year-end reporting holdbacks, and important dates to remember. So hopefully participants today will understand how to close out their yearly grant funds and they will be able to use this webinar as a resource. I am recording the webinar and it will take a few days for that to be uploaded to our website, but once it is, you'll also be able to see on the agenda at what times these different things are discussed. Hopefully by taking part in the webinar today that each director will require less technical assistance and that you'll be able to close out your grant in a timely manner. So let's jump in. Subgrantee guidance and webinar and website resources. I just want to, we have a lot of new directors. We'll be getting out new contact information here shortly, but just want to make you aware of the resources that are available on the State Department of Education website. The link at the top of this page will take you directly to our website, but here in a few minutes we'll be jumping in and I'll be showing you how to access that from the home page. So on there, you will be able to find different files, general information, but the main thing I want to make you aware of is the subgrantee guidance. If you have not already looked at this, you'll want to do so beginning on page 12. It goes through all of the financial information. Also on the website under Files, Fiscal Management, you will find the Budget Justification Workbook for 2017-18. That will be online shortly. We found an error in the formulas, so we're getting that updated. We'll resend that out to all of you via email, but we will also post it on our website. And then we will, out there is also the documentation you need to use for budget revisions. All right, so starting with your approved budgets, all of you have been working from a budget workbook, an Excel document all year long. In that, at the beginning of last year, you submitted your approved budget for us. That document, you should still be able to click back and go on the first tab and show you what your approved budget for the year was with a breakout of how you were going to spend your funds in each category. To see what your balance on your program budget is as of the last drawdown that you submitted and was approved, you would go to the very last tab. In this case, in this example, it was March, and you would look at the bottom of the screen and it would be able to show you how much was left in your overall grant budget. Please keep in mind that by June 30th, 75% of your grant budget or your award must be requested from the State Department of Education. I trust that all of you know how to do simple math and can look at what your balance is based on what your award was and figure out where you are percentage-wise in requesting funds. As you have requested funds throughout the year, I have emailed you back when those have been approved. And so you should be able to be tracking exactly where you are at on your awards. You're also able to see where your budget balance is in each category by looking above. That is a formula-based item, so if you look at the last request that you made, so in this case March, you will be able to see how much you have left in each category. If a balance reflects a negative number, as in this example under transportation, you will need to request a budget revision in order to bring that back into a positive number. So you would need to pull funds from another category to bring that number back into a positive number. So let's get into budget revisions. Budget revisions, I'm going to pull up where you will find this information on the state website. So now all of you should be seeing the State Department of Education's homepage and to get to the 21st CCLC site, you would click on Menus. We are in the Student Engagement, Career and Technical Readiness Division, so you will click on that. And then you will see this first block that says 21st Century Community Learning Centers. Click on that and that will take you to our website. We have some updates that need to be done on here. They hopefully will be done in the next couple of days. But down at the bottom, you will see where it states files, and under here is a lot of different information. We're working off of the fiscal management site right now. So here is the budget justification workbook. This will be updated in the next couple of days for the 2017-18 year. And then here are the budget revision documents. There is an example that you can look at, and then the template that you will use to submit budget revisions. So let's take a look at the example. So this is the example that is provided out there for you. You're going to complete all of the information that is in yellow. So you're going to tell us your district name, what round you're in, include the date, just the month that you're doing this revision for. And then over here in this approved budget category list, you are going to enter the numbers of your approved budget that appear on the very first tab of your budget workbook. Not the current numbers, but the total amount that was approved for each one of those categories. If you have already had a budget revision approved, you would enter the updated numbers from your budget revision. So you're going to enter that information. Then you're going to tell us why you're moving funds. And you need to provide both sides of the equation. Why you have extra funds available in a category or why you're pulling funds from one category, and what you're going to use those funds for in the category you are moving it to. So there are prompts here to help you with that. You are also then going to enter negative and positive numbers. So in this example, we're pulling out $1,890 from personnel. So that number is entered as a negative. Down here, we're entering numbers as positives because we are putting those funds into those categories. In the end, you should have a zero balance down here because you have balanced everything out. Once you have completed all of this information on the budget revision form, save that document and send it to me via email. Please include in the subject line that it is a budget revision. That helps me sort my inbox so that I can get to those in a timely manner. When the budget revision is approved, I will update your budget workbook based on the last drawdown that you submitted, and I will send it to you stating that it has been approved. I will also attach the updated budget workbook. That is the workbook you should be working off of going forward. You'll see that budget revision right here, the second tab or third tab, depending on how many budget revisions you've submitted, but it will be right at the very beginning, and I have been trying to flag those as green, showing that they have been approved. All right, moving on to obligations. All funds must be obligated by June 30th of 2017. So directly from the subgrantee guidance, obligations are orders placed for property or services, contracts, and similar transactions given during a given period that require payment during that same or a future period. So what that means is you must have entered into a contract, you must have already submitted an order for everything that you plan to use the 16-17 funds for. That all must be completed by June 30th. So if you need to do a budget revision to request those, you're going to need to get that budget revision in ASAP so that you have time to complete that documentation by June 30th. You're going to want to be working closely with your business office to make sure that all of the funds are obligated. I want to give you some examples of what this might look like. So if you are planning to purchase items that have not yet been purchased, you're going to want to make sure that you have completed your district's or your organization's purchasing process, and that order has actually reached the vendor by June 30th, because they need to send you a documentation that says this has been ordered. That doesn't mean that you have to have received the item, it just means that you have to have placed the order. Obligations can get confusing when it comes to staffing. So most of the directors in the 21st CCLC program work off of a contract. That contract usually goes through the summer. That is an obligation. If you are under contract and it goes through the summer months that you may not be working, that is considered obligated, and so you can request those funds as they are paid out. If you have staff that is not under contract and they come in and do work for you on July 1st, that is taken out of next year's funding because they are actually working. The same applies to you. If you are actually working after that June or that July 1st deadline, you code that and take that out of the 17-18 budget. So this only applies if you are not working and are under contract. All right. I apologize, my screen's having a little trouble advancing. There we go. Many of you have asked about funds that may not be expended during the 16-17 year. You didn't hire staff, you didn't purchase something you had planned on doing, you served less children than you planned on serving, and now you have a surplus of funds that are not needed. If you do not plan to spend those funds in an approved format, those funds must be released back to the State Department of Education via a letter that is sent to Andrew. The letter must include the organization, so it must be on organizational letterhead. It must include the amount that you are going to release back to the State Department of Education, and it must be signed by your organizational head. In most cases, that is the superintendent. We want to make it clear that there's no penalty for releasing funds back to the State Department of Education. It shows that you are a good steward of your funds, that you're not expending money that you don't need. Those funds will stay in Idaho, and they will be incorporated back into the 2017-2018 program awards. So if you find that you do have money on the table, let's have a conversation, and we can make sure that you have everything that you need. But if the case is that you don't need all of the funds that you were awarded, please work to release those funds back to the State Department of Education so that we can use those in next year's funding. Final requests for the 2016-2017 payments. Those must be in our office, including your documentation, your budget workbook, your detailed ledger, and your business manager's request within the grant reimbursement system by September 15th, 2017. That gives me time to go through those and have those ready for payment on September 25th. Of course, you can close out your budgets well before this if you've already expended all the funds, if all of the invoices have come in, if you don't have any staff that's under contract for the summer. You can submit those final payments, those final requests as they come in, and we will close out your 16-17 award as soon as possible. We give you until September 15th because we recognize that if you placed an order on June 30th, you won't have received the item, or you won't, and the district will not have paid out for that item for a month or two. So September 15th is the final date to make those requests. We want to make you aware of that until you have submitted that final request for 2016-17 and it has been paid out, your new award for 2017-18 will not be added to the grant reimbursement system. So your business manager will not see your new award in there until the final payment has been made on current year. This doesn't mean that you haven't been awarded for 17-18. It just means that the funding is not available for your organization to request, and that you have not received a formal award letter for that. If that is an issue, please notify me as soon as possible so that we can work with your organization to make sure that they know that you have funding available to start programming July 1st. As I mentioned, final payments can be made anytime prior to September 15th. That is just the final date that you can send that in. I do see some questions coming in, and I'm going to address those at the end of the call. So keep typing those in, and we'll address those at the very end. All right, year-end reporting holdback. So you have spent all your funds, everything has come in, you have submitted the final payment to the State Department of Education. 10% of your grant award is going to be held by the State Department of Education until we have received all of your documentation for this past year. So any your matching documentation, your annual performance report that Andrew has sent out, all of that documentation must be submitted to the State Department of Education before we will release the final 10% of your award. So keep that in mind. This does not include the tactile reports. The tactile reports are handled separately because of the timeline on those. We don't want to hold up any funding for your districts or your organizations because of that report. But all other documentation must be submitted to the State Department of Education before we will release that final 10%. So important dates to remember. June 15th, this is the last date to submit a budget revision. So all documentation, make sure you've gone through your budget, make sure you've looked to see where you're at, and if you need to move any funding around, June 15th is the final date to submit that documentation. June 20th, I will notify you if your budget revision has been approved or declined. I am trying to work through those as they're coming in. Please recognize that with Andrew out, I'm covering a lot of other information, and I'm also still trying to wrap up the prevention conference. So I'm working through those as quickly as I can, but by June 20th, you will be notified whether you have the approved or decline on your budget revision so that you have 10 days to move forward. June 30th, all funds must be obligated. I would encourage you again to go out and look at the subgrantee guidance. That document will show you exactly what an obligation means. On September 15th, final payment requests must be submitted to the State Department of Education. September 25th is the last payment date for the program year. So that is the last date that funding will flow from the State Department of Education to your organization for the 16-17 program year. And October 1st is the latest date that you will receive your 2017 program funds, that they will become available in the grant reimbursement application. So I know there's been some questions that have come in, so let me look at those. So one of the questions that we get every year, that you are under contract with your district to work through the summer. That is considered an obligation. Those funds are obligated or encumbered. You would request them as the district pays them out. So you don't request them all on June 30th because the district has not paid them out. You would request them as they pay those out in July and as they pay them out in August. That is why you have that September 15th deadline. If you actually work after July 1st, meaning you come into the office and you work, that comes off of next year's award. So keep that in mind. Let me see what the next one. So I have a question about summer programming. Summer programming that is happening in July, that would be paid for out of next year's award. So the question is, I need to make some obligations to an organization prior to July 1st. Can I use 16-17 funds for that? No, that your programming is actually happening next year. You would use next year's funds to pay for that activity. So I'll give you just a few more minutes to see if there are any other questions. As I mentioned, this call has been recorded and will be made available on the State Department of Education's website. But that is all of the information. So it doesn't look like there are any other questions, so thank you for being with us today, and you can watch for this to be on the website in a few days. Thank you.